the Football Pod on Off the Ball in partnership with AIB, proud sponsors of the Football, Hurling and Camogie All-Ireland Club Championships. Hashtag the toughest.
Hello there, and you're very welcome along to a special episode of the Football Pod. I haven't got Paddy Anders with me or James O'Donoghue, but I do have the original member, Andy Moran. Andy, I actually wanted to do this at some stage. Unfortunately, we're doing a show today to mark the passing of John O'Mahony, somebody who was incredibly close to you and had an unbelievable influence over so many people who sadly passed away Sunday morning. So it's not under the best of circumstances, but I really appreciate you hopping on your old podcast to have a chat about a great man.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy. Thanks for having me. And Joe, I was lucky enough to come from the same club as John Ballaghaderreen, and we were exceptionally proud of him. And yesterday was it caught us all. We all knew that Jono mightn't have been in the best of health over the last couple of weeks and maybe possibly months, but it's just a shock. He was a bit invincible, Tommy. Jono was invincible. He was kind of that person that you always felt to be there. I talked to a couple of the lads, Barry Solan and a couple of the lads there last night, and they just said, Joe, he was the sort of fella that everyone has one of those in their club, I think, where you think they're always going to be there, and then when they're not, it comes as a huge shock and huge. I wouldn't call it grief yesterday around the town. It was sadness around the town. It was a very quiet town yesterday, and no, he was just he was a very, very unique individual.
He's just 71, you know, and I know you mentioned there that he had been maybe dealing with an illness recently, but it obviously has come to a shock. And for his wife, Geraldine, and his daughters, you mentioned Ballaghaderreen coming to a standstill, but like, he packed so much into a life there of 71. Like, if you think about, for a start, forget about Ballaghaderreen for a second, but the influence he's had on the entire region of the West, never mind footballers, but people, like as a school teacher, you know, as a person in the community, he really was a huge influence.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think you summed it up there, and I'll just segue a tiny bit. So yesterday he came from, he was in hospital in Galway. He came from Galway and to Ballaghaderreen and in the hearse, you know, and Geraldine was obviously beside him, and Joe, he got a guard of honour in Tuam. He got a guard of honour in Dunmore, and then he gets a guard of honour in Ballaghaderreen. And I'm not too sure many people have got that along the way. And it was just, there's images there on social media of Dunmore, and it's just, Joe, that's incredible. But no, I think you've summed it up quite well. I think, Joe, the sadness is there, and we all went up to his house with Nathan's yesterday. All the guys that we thought were giants in our club all throughout the years, these guys who played when we were really young, and then guided us through the 14s, the 16s, the minors, and the seniors then, and to see the range of emotion, like I don't think there was Joe, with these, as I call them, giants. When we were kids, there were giants men, see them all in tears and all crying. It just shows what he meant. But I think all that sadness, Tommy, is going to really come to your point, that's all going to lead to, I think, in some way, a celebration over the next couple of days, because Joe, he lived multiple lives. You think about his managerial career in football, right throughout the clubs. Like, people might have known he was involved with the Downs in Westmeath over the last couple of years, Salthill. He's a unique kind of friendship with St. Bridget's and Roscommon, and then all the counties he was involved in as well. You're just going to see a unique outpouring from that. And then you go political. What people forget about Jono, and if you want to see how remarkable a person Jono is, Jono got 2 terms as the TD, and we're a town in Ballaghaderreen, obviously. And what to say about Ballaghadereen is that your football is in Mayo, your politics is in Roscommon, and your religion is in Sligo, because we're in the Diocese of Conroy. And that's what to say about the town. But Jono got elected twice in Mayo without having any vote from Ballaghadereen, because we do our vote in Roscommon, which shows the unique. Like, can you imagine going for political life and not having your local town being able to vote for you? And that shows how unique of individual he was. And then you have the school teacher, and then most importantly, husband and just a top class dad on top of it, and you have a very, very unique individual that's molded into one. So I think over the next couple of days, us the town will come to terms with it. We'll call to the house over the next couple of days, and we'll give him a great send off. But I think the stories and celebration that's going to be around the town over the next couple of days is just going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. It'll be a tough week as well for you as well. Like there's no doubt about that. Andy, the first line in your book, first chapter really, is called Key Influences, and the first line, in a lot of the ways, Ballaghaderreen, my home, is a funny little town, and you've kind of summed it up there. And the first chapter, Key Influences, a lot of it is about John O'Mahony and the influence he had on you when you were in school. One of the things he did is a persecution complex the wrong way of putting it? When you grow up in Ballaghaderreen, when, you're seen as an outsider no matter where you turn. And there was a little bit of that when you were growing up. But there was a line you had here: for a young kid already afflicted with a persecution complex, their words reaffirmed my growing cynicism towards a world conspiring against me. How lucky was I then that as a spoiled teenager, the panacea for my affliction was right in front of me in the guise of my teacher, coach, and mentor, John O'Mahony. There's no getting away from it. Jono had a real influence over you.
Yeah, geez, Tommy. Yeah, he did. There's no doubt about it. I was asked previously, obviously over the last 24, 48 hours, asked to do a few of these, and Joe, like the someone asked me to go, what influence, Joe, did he have in your career? Would you've got to the management side? And like, there's a good chance that I mightn't have played football till I was 20 years of age without Jono. He was the one that Joe kept me on the straight and narrow. Joe, my family, the Moran family, are from Roscommon. They're from the club beside us, the Western Gales club, and like it was always used that when I came back and I wasn't good enough at 16s or 18s at minor, I wasn't a great minor when I was that. It was always, you are not being picked because who you are, where you're from, what you've done, and stuff like that. And you go to Jono with them sort of excuses, and he very quickly tells you that, hey, listen, you're not being picked because you're not fit enough. You need to get better off your right foot. And he'd do it in a really nice way. He'd say you're doing this well, but you're doing this where you need to improve it. And I think some of Jono's success was probably based around that, where it was always being told you can't do this because of this. And he was like, no. He goes, break down them barriers. What's really happening here? And he goes, from my point of view, Andy, from a human point of view, I'm a manager. I'm going to pick the best 15 players available to me and the guys that are going to come on and replace them. And there's no excuses. And I think that's where that comes from. You always, in Ballaghaderreen, it's always a case of, what you don't have. He was thinking, what do we have special from Ballaghaderreen that we can kind of shove out there? And would you believe I sat down yesterday and I watched A Year Till Sunday with my little girl Charlotte, who's 9. Not sure it's the best viewing to watch with a 9-year-old. There's a few choice words in it, but she was asking me who he was, and I was kind of and there was a great bit in it, and obviously the one that catches the headlines is, well, there's only one effing answer to that. That's the one that really everyone talks about. But the one that caught me was, and he was on about media before the Connacht final in '98. He said, listen, there'll be media scrutiny, there'll be this, there'll be that, and the other. And he said, it's simple as this: on Sunday evening, do you want a 2-page spread in the paper, or do you want a Connacht medal? And that was him. He was like, no excuses, straight down the line. This is how we get there. You follow me. And he goes, that's the way he was. And as a young teenager, and just I suppose to give the listeners a viewpoint on this, we went into St. Nathan's in 1996. We were 12 coming 13. And Jono had just left Leitrim, and he was about to he took Galway in '98. So we got him in an off year, and he decided to take us as first years and brought us right through to senior level, where we ended up winning a B All Ireland, which was huge for the town at the time at senior level. But right throughout that, we were getting riled with stories about Joyce, about Donlan, about Jaff Fallon, about Kevin Walsh. And I remember just stories, particularly one resonated with me over the last couple of days, and Porrick being in the All-Ireland semi-final, you'd be going on about commitment, and we might have training at 7:30 in the morning, and he'd come out and he'd go, well, he goes, like this, Porrick Joyce might have told, I think he was studying up the north at the time, and he just goes, Porrick said he couldn't be at training his exams, and we'd excused him, but we said, listen, do everything you can to be there. And Joyce bombs into training with 10 minutes before the session to go, gets on his gear, trains, and he goes, we won the All-Ireland subsequently. And he said, did it matter that Joyce did that? He said, maybe not, but he said that was the level of commitment needed. That's what we accept. And if Joyce and Donlan and Ja and Kevin Walsh and these boys were doing it, Joe, little 17, 18-year-old or 17, 16, 17-year-olds from Roscommon and Mayo had no excuse, and that's the way he kind of used that. And to be hearing that stuff, this man in his pomp between 98 and 2001, to be hearing that and to be hearing them stories just kind of drove us on to seek out how good we could go. And them stories kind of resonated with all of us. And they were the ones that were going around the WhatsApp in the last 24 hours,
Yeah, that's amazing that while he's guiding Galway to 2 All-Ireland titles, he's also coaching your school's team the whole way through.
Yeah, and that was like that. I remember we would you believe the Mayo lost an All-Ireland minor final? You would, wouldn't you? But we lost an All-Ireland minor final in 2000, and at that time there was a lovely thing that used to happen. I'm not sure it really suited the senior teams, if I'm being honest. We used to eat together the day after.
The finals, the All-Ireland finalists.
All-Ireland final. So in 2000, we lost an All-Ireland final. That was Conor Mortimer's, Alan Dillon's team the year before me. And I didn't tog the day before. And we arrived into the City West the next day. And the Galway lads were there that he had talked so much about over the last couple of years. And like there was myself and Stephen Drake, who my brother-in-law, my clubmate. And he pulls us over to the table and he introduced us to Donlan, Joyce, Kevin Walsh. And he was telling them about us playing for Nathies, because he had already, they knew the story of us playing for Nathies and them playing, and that we won the All-Ireland B title and all this. And it was a lovely moment at the time, but he always had a soft touch to him. I'm not saying he was a soft touch, but he had a soft touch when it came to people, especially with young people, how he'd bring you forward and how he'd kind of not encourage you, but subconsciously get you to say, like, these guys played for Jarlath's, now they're playing for Galway, now they're winning All-Irelands. That year, Galway actually drew in the All-Ireland final. They probably weren't in the mood to be there, but them guys carried themselves as you'd expect them to carry themselves, and they were great to myself and Steve at the time,
Yeah. You wrote, it's in that first chapter, you said the power was always in the question. Jono never found fault with something he hadn't taught you. So I can only imagine as a young fella, I don't know if that clicks right away, but if somebody is consistently driving that message at you and demanding standards, and you said he demanded standards rather than setting lofty goals, and that was how he dealt with it. And Ray Silk has done a couple of lovely pieces over the last couple of days, and he obviously was Jono's captain in '98 when they won the All-Ireland. And he wrote actually in the Examiner this morning about how they didn't get off to the best of starts. He was playing with Corofin, missed a couple of club trainings at the county because Corofin had gone late. And then he had actually booked a holiday with his girlfriend, who's now his wife, to go to the States to visit her brother. And it didn't go down well with Jono. Conversation ran along these lines. It's not a great start for us, Ray, is it? You've missed 5 or 6 sessions already with your club commitments, and now you're going to miss another 4 or 5 training sessions with your trip, and probably more if Corofin keep going well. I'm trying to pick a panel of committed men here to have a tilt at winning on All-Ireland, and this is not a good start. Unless you are committed to this panel, so on and so forth. So, anyways, that conversation transpired, and obviously they worked it out and still captains later on, them to the All-Ireland later on. But he cites another example a few months later, and it tallies with your Joyce story. Their all-star midfielder, Kevin Walsh, could not make an 8 p.m. training in Monavea one night as he was on guard duty. And John O'Mahony told Kevin, "No problem, Kevin. What time are you finished at? And I'll meet you in Monavea." So John met Kevin at about 11 o'clock and they trained in a one-on-one session until well after midnight under lights. It was very rare that someone missed training after that episode.
Yeah, he was the Kevin Walsh one was funny. I got sent one about Kieran Fitzgerald as well, that he was wrecked, his head was wrecked going around in the parade in 2001, that so much things done on tactics and who they were going to mark and what they were going to do, and he sees John go mental, during the parade. He goes, "What's coming now?" He goes, but he hadn't his socks pulled up for the parade, and but this was O'Mahony to a T. He was,
sure, there would have been fines. There would have been fines back then if you didn't have your socks on, right?
Yeah. It was just he was remarkable in how he if you wore the wrong socks, wrong shorts to any session to Anton, like playing a big match like for St. Nathan's, he'd be telling you, like he'd have went to the massive hassle of going down the town, maybe asking Solons or Durkins or Towies or McHughes to sponsor the gear, and if you didn't have that gear on, you didn't play. If you didn't wear green, if you decided one day I was wearing Ballaghaderreen socks which are white or Western Gael socks that were blue, he said that's fine. He said, he'd put you on the bench and you wouldn't play, and that was it. Like I remember, like I've said in previous ones too, that and I'm sure Ray would. He was kind of training you to be an adult. Like he was like, so you were going into school. I remember we had an intermediate final with the club, and Kevin Cahill, for some reason, decided to kick 3 of the finest points that he ever kicked in his life. I'd say the only 3 he ever kicked, but it kept us up in intermediate, saved us from going junior. And one fella on the team, a good friend of mine, decided to go out. He was a bit older than me, decided to go out with the lads that night, and he missed school on the Monday. And Jono was waiting for him at the school door, and like Jono wasn't principal, just a normal teacher waiting for on the school door for him on Tuesday morning. And the young fella came in, and he just goes to me, he goes, "You went for a few drinks on Sunday?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You missed school on Monday?" He goes, "He did." He goes, "I did, yeah." And he goes, if the height of your ambition is to stay out of junior football," he said, "You're as well park it." He said, "You're as well leave it." So I think that named individual, we won't name him, didn't play a game for the college for the next 2 weeks. Like he was one of our best forwards, didn't play a game for the next 2 weeks, and then Joe went on to great stuff and went on to great stuff in his career. But he was training you.
Yeah.
It wasn't the winning; it was he was literally kind of trying to train you for life after life felt as well. Now, look, that's in hindsight and looking back. But some of the stuff he did was just, try to train individuals and just make them a tiny bit better in their life. And I was on another one with Martin Carney yesterday, and I thought Martin summed it up brilliantly. And he said, "Jono just wanted you to be the best you can be at everything you did." And that was him. That was the line that summed it up for me. For himself personally, all he wanted to do, he never got thick with you on a match if he came off and he thought you gave it everything. If you came off and he thought you were at 70%, well, why God would you get it? But if he thought you gave it everything, he'd say, "That's fine, let's move on. Nothing we can do there," you know. And that was the mark of him. He was just a great person that kind of thought about you not just as a footballer, but winning things and stuff like that. He thought about you as a human and where it's going to take you in life. And I think that's what made him special.
Did you need him in those years?
Oh, Tommy, I'm telling you, even to stay in school, like I'm 40 years of age. At that time, when we were 15, 16, you were coming into massive Celtic Tiger times. It was like you were at the boom. Like it was the chance of going for an apprenticeship and to do all that. All like a lot of my mates were doing it, and even to stay in school, Tommy. You know, like the option was to go and I know that might sound mad now, but at that time the option was to go in third year and go and be an electrician or a plumber or whatever you wanted to do. And it was the football that kept us in school. It was literally the football that kept us in school. I remember not going to funerals, not going to weddings at 15, 16 years of age because of football. And like even when I remember I went to Tralee, I came out of school and I remember Paddy slagging me about this. He goes, "You're in another college." But I was in Tralee for 2 months. And I remember I came back and I'd abused my body a tiny bit too much in them 2 months, you know. And I remember it was like John
You were young though,
and
weren't you?
I was only 17, you know, and he basically just goes, he'd look at me and, it was the luck, he didn't even have to say anything. And I quit college basically November and took 2 years out and got myself fit, you know. It was that little influence of him looking over your shoulder and kind of even guiding you without being too much of an influence. I remember I dyed my hair then for an under-21 game, and it got back to me that O'Mahony said you'd never make it, you know, because you're at messing and Joe, and them things little stuck at you. You're always kind of, he was always a father figure, kind of looking over your shoulder, making sure you're looking after yourself and treating yourself right. And to have that guidance and have that control over you at 13 to 22 years of age, Tommy, I don't rate myself as being that good anyway, to be honest with you. But without being able to push myself to where I got to, there's no way I'd have made the Mayo team, no way I'd have played for the length I played for. And Joe, I don't put a lot down to him. I nearly put, nearly everything down to him, to be honest.
Wow. And did your relationship with him change, or was it always? Do you know when someone's your teacher and they're your coach when you're younger? There is obviously maybe you mentioned a father figure or a mentor is maybe how you put it in the book. As you grew older, did it change at all, or did it always stay consistent?
That's a great question. No, it did change slightly. It did, but like I think it's always good to have someone in your life where you're trying to earn their respect. I wouldn't, Joe, I wouldn't change that for anything. If like when you get a text from like obviously John knows the massive affiliation with Leitrim and massive passion for them, and like when we got promoted this year and the text came from John and Geraldine O'Mahony, that text means a bit more. Do you know, that sort of way it was, like that was like a special message, and to think that's only in March, but like when you get that, it always meant a bit more. But it did change, like I suppose. But I'd have always been ringing him for advice, so there was always that kind of thing. Jono was the sort of person, Tommy, who was always in control. Even if he wasn't in control, you always felt this fella has a level of control to him where other people doesn't. And like in politics and management and that's a massive skill to have. Like
Yeah.
it's just a huge skill. Like you never feel like you're panicked. Like how did he win so many points in that crunch times? How did he win so many games? Like you see these great managers winning games by just that point. Just winning it by a point, getting the draw when they don't deserve the draw, like in '98 against Roscommon, all that sort of stuff. How did they do that? Because they always keep an element of control to what they're doing, and that's where I think he has. But never forgot where he came from. He still had his cards buddies on a Wednesday night. I know the Christie and the lads from the card game rang him there 2 Wednesdays ago, and he rang into the cards game, and they had the chats. And always had his mates in Balla, and always had that tie to Balla, even though he was doing stuff on a global scale.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Like, we barely even got into, what he achieves. And you mentioned Leitrim there, we mentioned Galway. He played himself, he was a cornerback. He won 8 Connacht titles. I don't think anyone's won any more. I know James Horan's definitely come close, but nobody has won 8. He won 3 with
Yeah.
Mayo, 1 with Leitrim, and 4 with Galway, which is perhaps the most remarkable because, outside managers are probably more of a thing now, but back then, it wasn't really the done thing. I know there was a few of them in the 90s maybe, but the biggest thing for me is like, it's 5 decades of coaching. It's from the 70s all the way up to, like, I actually cited this on News Talk yesterday. John Maher did an unbelievable job in Brian Fenton for Galway last week. He only made his championship debut for Roscommon in a man-marking for Galway in a man-marking job on Enda Smith against Roscommon in April 23. I think it was in the Examiner I'd read it that John O'Mahony had an influence over him that year, and had sat down and had a couple of conversations with him. So I grabbed Maher after the game. I said, "Is it true that it was Jono that really got you out here?" And he goes, "Jono lit the fire." That, his Galway career, he was called in by Walsh in 1819, decided to do different things with his life. I kind of fell out of love with maybe the dream of it playing in intercounty football. And then that season with Jono and Tailteann Cup when they got to the county final, got him back out. And now John Maher is playing such an influential role for Galway. So he's still having an influence 2 years ago, a year ago.
He's a remarkable guy. He got Saltill to a stone's throw. I know Sean Armstrong and Finian was helping him. Finian Hanley were helping him, and they've taken it over since. But he got them to a stone's throw. I think was it a late Peter Cook punch into the air, into the goal or something. And I know that hurt. That hurt him. But like he was still doing it, up to 2 seasons ago. He was still kind of doing it. I remember when I was going for the Leitrim job, the phone was ringing. He was involved in Saltill, and I was up asking him his advice on Leitrim, and he'd say, "Hold on here 2 seconds, I need to take this." And be talking to a player.
Had you called into him that week?
Oh yeah, geez, to be honest, I'd call him on an awful lot of stuff, if I'm being honest, up to the point of the Leitrim thing of what his best advice would be. And I know Leitrim probably sussed him out about me before Leitrim actually even rang me, to be honest with you, So he just had he'd relationship. But I'll tell you what I did. I went to a Saltill gig. Geez, it must have been 2 years ago, and it was this big luncheon on a Friday. And Tom O'Callaghan's dad was there and a few others. But I was sitting at a table with Sean Boylan, Eamon Fitzmaurice, Jono. I just looked around. I said, "This is the coolest thing I've done in a long time." But I'm sure Jono probably set that table up. But this was his thing, Tommy. He could literally get people in a room to like nobody else. I've never seen anything like it. When we did club things, if Jono said we're going to do this, that means you were going to do it. You had no choice. It was on. It was happening, and away he went. And he was just remarkable at getting people into a room at the right time.
Yeah. Can I read one last?
Sorry, and the John Maher thing. The John Maher thing, like that is of no surprise to me. Like that is him 1-on-1. He was with the Downs before he went to Salthill.
Yes.
And the Downs won the county title the year after he left, and I know that he got a shout down off the stage from Luke Loughlin. And that meant an awful lot to John O'Mahony. I remember, and John O liked to take praise. He could never take it anyway. But to take and for Luke to do that to him, I know meant an awful lot to him. And Joe, you're on about lighting fires. He was doing that all the time. You felt down, you rang Jono. Like I go through it, like Mike Solon and Barry Solon, and I'll finish with this. Joe, two great lads, two of my best mates. But like Barry's done 9 years with Arsenal. Mike won the under-21 with me as manager in 2016. Still doing a bit of managing. Came to Leitrim with me, obviously. But they used to go with Jono in '89 and be the ball boys and be the mascots and the water boys, and they used to travel in the car with them. Like, you're on about mentorships. Like, that's a mentorship. Barry came in with us in Nathies that time in 2000, helped Jono out. Jono did his bits and pieces. Now, would Barry have got to Arsenal without Jono? I think you just need people in your life, and we were just the lucky kids around the town at that time to have such a great leader, such a great mentor, and like, God knows what it's going to lead to in the future.
Yeah. And the influence, as I said, it's extended across so many people. And I think you're all going to hear that over the next couple of days, and you know it as well. But I'm just going to end our chat on this point, and it's another bit from the book. But just to note, John O'Mahony ended a 38-year stretch for an All-Ireland final appearance at Mayo in 1989. For Leitrim, he ended a 67-year wait in 94 with that Connacht title. And actually, Ray Silk told a story that in 95, they were away after 98 and they were having a bit of crack on a trip away. And Jono said, if we had bet you in 95 with Leitrim, we were going to win the All-Ireland. And Silk said, he kind of laughed and said, are you serious? Jono was like, yeah, that was our plan. Win Connacht, win the All-Ireland. And like what he did was, and then obviously Galway in 32 years was in 98. He made people believe, right? But I just thought this was a beautiful story, and I haven't seen it anywhere else. But after Mayo lost to Cork under Jono in 1989, there was an iconic photo of him on the field surrounded by Mayo fans. One of them holding a banner on the field that read, John says keep the faith. Not long after, as if in an act of defiance, John's wife Geraldine put up a sign outside their home that simply read, keep the faith. It was like something you'd see in deepest Texas in a town obsessed with high school football. The message required no explanation.
That sign appeared. That sign appeared again yesterday. Would you believe? So,
wow.
Yeah. I was going to mention one other thing, but it was he like the joy that the messages from Leitrim over the last 24 hours, Tommy, have been incredible. You know, been incredible, and he's no, he's going to be missed now more so than. But I know what I was going to say. I went to his house when we were going with Leitrim, and I went up just to ask his advice, and we had a chat. It might have been our second or third chat. And when I came the second or third time, he was ready for me. You know, and like, it was the first time I'd seen a VCR in. First time I'd seen a VCR in must have been 20 years. You know, so he had it ready. And he put on this tape. So when you walked into Jono's old house before, they've done up since, but when you walked in, there was a big door knocker, and you went into the front room, and it was just videotapes everywhere of football. Like, I mean, like, do you know the way people have libraries now with books, encyclopedias? Jono just had videotapes everywhere. So if you go now, that's kind of moved on. But you go into the sitting room, and you'd sit down, and he said, "I need to show you this." And his good friend, I don't know if you've seen Tommy Gorman pass there a couple of weeks ago, and Jono on his own, fighting his own battle, went on Radio 1 and did a beautiful piece on Tommy Gorman. But he put on this videotape for me, Tommy, and it was basically what he showed to the Leitrim players the night before they played Dublin in '94 in the All-Ireland semi-final. And it was them, Joe, these montages now that are all key, like RT does them. But he had montages before those montages, and it was them beating Mayo, Galway, and Roscommon in them championships. And the scenes in Hyde Park, and the scenes when they came into Carrick. And then Tommy Gorman was going down the streets of Ballaghaderreen and Carrick and Shannon, interviewing Leitrim people to see could they beat, and what did they think of the Leitrim team. Tommy, this is unbelievable footage, but it just shows how much ahead of the time he was. He was doing these things. The boys in Ballaghaderreen would be telling stories about him having the VCR up on the stand in the stand watching games. Do you know? In the 80s, 89, 90, you know, and video recording games, and like video clipping, and huddle before huddling was even invented, you know, and he was doing this stuff before it was even done. But that video clip, I don't know if it'll ever be seen, but it was if he was trying to convince me to do the Leitrim job, he definitely did convince me in that moment. But it's beautiful, and it shows great footage of great Leitrim people doing the thing. But he was just trying to get the boys motivated because he believed in '94 they could have won the All Ireland in '94, never mind '95.
Yeah, I think John O'Mahony, and you mentioned it earlier, is the focal point of one of the greatest GEA documentaries that's ever been made. But there could easily be another one made with some of the VCR tapes that are in the house. So I think you're onto something there, Andy. Yeah, you mentioned that beautiful tribute you played to Tommy Gorman on Radio 1 recently, and obviously Micheál Marherty as well that same week. And there was a line that Micheál said in '94 that it always resonated with me. And Des Cahill mentioned it as well. There will be many a Leitrim man looking down from the veranda of heaven right now as they claimed that title in 1994. And what an influence he had over people in Ballaghaderreen and Mayo and Galway and Leitrim. Andy, we're going to take a break now in the football pod, but thanks so much for joining us to talk about John O'Mahony.
Thanks, Tommy.
Ar yeisté go raibh an anam dílis. You're very welcome back to the Football Pod. Andy Moran has joined us for a special episode. We've spent the last half an hour or so talking about the great John O'Mahony. Really lovely stories there, Andy. Really appreciate your time on that. It's been a busy week for yourself over the last little while. You made the decision last week to step away from Leitrim, and after 3 years, you mentioned that you sat down with John O'Mahony before you took the job. First off, was it the right move to step into intercounty coaching with the Leitrim footballers 3 years ago?
Oh, Tommy, was amazing. I've absolutely loved it. Loved getting to know the people of Leitrim. Loved getting to see a different way of football. And I don't want to say that as patronising any way of form. And the guys know I don't mean that, but the population, the location, the challenges that them players face compared to us privileged guys like myself, Paddy and James, had to deal with over our years is completely different. So it was absolutely amazing to see it and to see the passion they have for their county. And yeah, no, I genuinely loved it. And yes, we'd hard times obviously with New York and stuff like that, but to be honest with you, that even made it probably even better because it showed the resilience of a team to come back and kind of and fight for something. Yeah, I'm just honored to be involved, to have been involved with them guys. But I just took the decision last week. That man we were talking about there for the last half an hour, I'd love to have had his ear for the last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, I just didn't have it. But yeah, no, I just made the decision. I do feel that the team need a 3-year person to come in there because we finished the last 2 Tailteann Cup games with 5 under-20s on the pitch, obviously led by Barry McNulty and Jack Foley, who played all, but we Darren Cox, Ben Guckian, and sorry, the name escapes me, the fifth one, Eric Oberon, over the last 2 games who came in and played. We'd 5 fellas finishing the game who played under 20. Now we could have had Aina McNamara and Paul Honeyman come in with that, so we could have finished with 7 under-20s. And I just feel that Leitrim needed somebody to come in and give that another 3 years or another 5-year stint so that them fellas get enough game time in Division 3 and to push on. And that's where my decision hinged on. Was I willing to give that 3 years again and go after it again for 3 years? And I just thought it was probably better just to step away at that point. But like what them lads have given me, both in the under-20s, the players and the county board and the supporters, to be honest with you, I couldn't ask for any more. It was absolutely amazing. I loved every minute.
You could see from what was said when you stepped away from Leitrim, and I suppose the esteem that they hold you in up there, like the influence that you've had. They spoke about energy. They spoke about the coaching insights and the standards that you brought over the last 3 years. You mentioned New York there very, very quickly off the bat, and I'm sure that's kind of been mentioned quite a bit. But nothing in life is linear, right? Progress is rarely ever a straight line up. The New York experience, when you take it as a whole within the 3 years, having to deal with something where it probably blows up a little bit and bounce back from it and come up then this year and get promotion, when promotion was probably the goal the whole way along to get out of Division 4. Like, what lessons were learned from that New York experience?
See, the funny thing about the New York game was we actually played quite well. We just missed every kind of shot we could have missed, and then we missed the 5 penalties. But the lessons was, Joe, it's hard to see. Listen, let's call a spade a spade. When you're leaving Gaelic Park on the cold April night, it was hard to see any lessons if the truth was being known. But I suppose the lessons are learned then after, and you know the people who are really involved. You know the guys who really back you, like Ida County Board, Enda Stenson, Declan Bowen, Barbara, and Martin McCartan there. Like Ida County Board that absolutely backed us without any question. And it was just amazing. And they came in, the county board came into the training session on the Friday night when we returned, and like every player to a man was there. And they were just like, they'd never kind of seen that before, but they could see that the culture that the lads were setting was beginning to set. So we went out and played Tailteann Cup. Obviously, we didn't have our the players we probably wanted to play in the Tailteann Cup, but we got to blood so many young players. And that's what I'm saying now. Leitrim need to do that again. We got to blood so many young players. And what that did was it gave them huge confidence. Then last July, we got Michael Murphy in to talk to the group. And Michael is just like an amazing person. I always knew he was an amazing person, but I probably got an insight into him that day that kind of further said that to me. And Paddy has probably got to know him over the last couple of weeks and might have known him from his DCU days anyway. But came in and he just said to the lads, and without prompt, without anything, 27 lads turned up last weekend in July, and basically he goes, "How many weeks do you have to the National League?" And the boys, he goes, "What's your goal?" And the lads just said, "To get promoted out of Division 4. How many weeks do you have?" And they said 30 weeks. And he said, "Get training." He said, "You should be in the gym 2 to 3 nights a week together as a group." Boom. And like Joe, I was kind of half saying this to them anyway. And then you had Michael coming in, doubling up, and the respect to hold him in. And the boys just took off, Tommy. And they literally took off. They didn't miss a week of training. And they get promoted. And people go, "Oh, it's promoted from Division 4." And I just go, hold on here now for a second. You're coming from a county with 32,000 people, right? The next county up is Longford with 64,000 people, which is double what Leitrim have. And you're coming from a county, and they're not in the bottom 8 counties in the country. Now, I just think the Donal Wrens, the Mark Diffleys, the Ryan O'Rourke's, the Darragh Rooneys, and these guys just deserve unbelievable credit for getting them to the themselves where they get to. And now I'm telling you now that they have 5, 6, 7 under 20s coming up after that. I think the world is their oyster in terms of where they can go and how they can hold it for the next 2 or 3 years. And so what lessons were learned? Like the boys that are committed, if they're willing to put in the work and they're willing to go after it, like the story you told about Ray Silk there a few minutes ago, if they're willing to do it, you can do, like, you set your own base level, and then you work up from there. And I'd be immensely proud of the work that we did and the players did over the last 12 months to achieve that. And we went up to Laois in the second last league game, and anyone that was there that night, it was just such a special night. And like Laois are in the Tailteann Cup Final, Tommy, so it just shows the level that these boys can get there. And obviously you get Keith Burnback playing and a few more. Joe, you have a right good team there.
Yeah, for sure. For yourself, like, you have a young family there with Jenny and 2 kids. You mentioned Charlotte was up watching A Year Till Sunday with you. Just quickly, would you recommend that as a ritual for every father and mother with a 9-year-old child to watch A Year Till Sunday? Because it's a yearly ritual for me to watch it every year. Are they too young at that age, or should we give them another year or two?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be. I don't think I'll get away with watching that again with Charlotte. To be honest,
perfect.
she's about 15, and Ollie found it really amusing anyway. But did he just say that word? Yeah, but it was.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't be recommending that for my 9-year-old again.
Everyone else go watch it though. But you have a young family. You run the business there with the movement. You're an intercounty coach, and like, we know about the commitments for players, but as a coach, investing yourself in something like that, and I know you threw yourself into it full throttle because I know how much you were invested in the football pod and you did it with us in year 1. So you don't do things by halves. Energy wise, you mentioned needing another 3 years. Somebody needs another 3 years, whoever comes in, and it's a big project. Energy wise for you, are you on empty now? Do you need time to refresh and take a break, or what are you looking to do next in your own coaching journey?
See, you kind of that's a broad spectrum of a question. You just don't know what you could end up doing. Like I suppose my thoughts on it was this year was going to be a year for learning and kind of, but you just never know. It's like I didn't leave Leitrim because I needed a break from intercounty football. I left Leitrim because I thought it was the best thing to do, probably from Leitrim and from my own point of view. Like you mentioned Jenny there. Jenny was telling me to go back. You know, she was saying, you know, she loved it. Like I can't explain to you how much like the Leitrim people welcomed us in. They brought us in. They treated us unbelievably well. They looked after us. You know, like Jenny felt part of it, and like I think that's the special thing about going in with a small county. But it's like, can you bring them? Can you go? Can you do that for 6 years with a county? You know, you mentioned in the last one outside managers. It takes for an outside manager. It takes you. Like my advice to myself now would be, it takes you 12 to 18 months to go in and to get to know the personality. Like you come into Mayo, it's a completely different personality than you go into Leitrim. You go into Roscommon, it's a different personality. You go to Galway, you go to Sligo, and then 5 counties are in the same spectrum of a county. So it's, did you have another 3 years to go with that group? And that's the question you have to answer. But am I running an empty? Absolutely not. It's
I know
that's
you're
not.
not.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the kind of reasoning I did it. It was
Okay.
kind of more so I just thought it was the best thing for the group. And unless I was willing to give another 3 to 4 years for it, and I think the group kind of respect that. I've talked to Mark and I've talked to Donald and Joe. I know they've given everything to me, and I think it back. I've probably given everything to them as well, and my
Yeah.
coaching team the same. You know.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens next for Leitrim football and for Andy Moran down the line, whatever happens. But it was a very enjoyable journey to follow and cover over the last couple of years. And he had so many great days there. And I'm sure all the players loved their time with you over the 3 years as well. And you mentioned Tailteann Cup Final. I'm fresh off a weekend in Croke Park watching hurling. And hair's still on the back of my neck from yesterday. It felt like a bloody All Ireland final to see a red and green. We're heading into a festival of football this weekend. I know I could talk to you for an hour about the All Ireland senior football semi-finals. I'm going to get Paddy and James and them tomorrow. But just in the Tailteann Cup final, we've a downside that put 8 goals by Leitrim last year in the semi-final. That fell short against Leash. I let it that. That put 8 goals by Leash, and they're facing them this year. They fell short at this stage last year. That's the first time I've ever said that. Sorry about that. Making a couple of mistakes in the pod recently. But how is this framed this weekend? Because you come up with this against this Leash side in the league when you needed to win. Then you met them a couple of weeks later in the league final, and you fell short that day. Like Evan O'Carroll was hot. They were on fire in Croke Park. They've had a couple of big results this season. How do you see this Tailteann Cup final poised?
Okay, so I need to answer that. I need to talk about the semi-finals first. Okay, so at the start of it, I was saying to any media that asked us, I thought a Division 4 team would definitely make the semi-finals. Now, yes, ourselves and Laois went up, but we played Division 4 this year, and I'm just delighted that happened because it shows the quality that was in Division 4 this year. You had a Wexford, you had a Tip, you had a Longford, you had a Carlow. You know, you had really, really good sides in Division 4, and we were one of the lucky ones to come out with Laois. I think Laois have made huge gains, like absolutely huge gains, but you can't take away from the fact that you watch the Laois Antrim game. It was a really, really good game. It played at a really high standard. But then you watch the Sligo Down game, and it was just played at a higher standard. Like there's no denying that. There's no point dressing this up into something that it's not. It was played at a higher standard, and I would like I texted like myself and Tony were texting there during the week, and just had to compliment him on the performance of Sligo. And it's great for Leitrims to be able to see Sligo doing that because they're our closest rival in Connacht, and like that's what Leitrim are chasing. And but Down, I feel, will win the Tailteann Cup final, and they could win it by 6 to 10 points. But I think you've hit the point, is that Billy Sheehan brought Laois there last year. They weren't ready to play it down last year. They're like Billy was building them, and I thought did a really good job at Laois. Now Justin is in with them now, and has just kept on that building process with Ross Munley, and they will get closer to Down, but Down should still win that game. It'd be a massive, massive upset if Down didn't win that. Down should be in the Sam Maguire, but this is their road to get in there. All the pressure is on Down, but I do feel their running power. They're just maybe football wise. I think they're very equal. Laois play, for anyone that's watching this game, Laois play a terrific style of football in terms of kicking. They try to high press the kick out. They have a clear man. I don't know why I'm pointing at you, you're from Meath, but you're down there. They have a clear man in goals. So it's kicking like anyone. If you could tag it, Tommy, his point against who was it? Was it again? He kicked one from outside the 65
Yeah.
against Offaly, was it? Or no,
Yeah,
it
I
wasn't
think so.
against. Yeah, outside the 65, he kicks it over the bar. An amazing score.
Killing Roach,
And
yeah.
it just like they play a beautiful style of football, but S&C wise and strength and conditioning wise, Down are probably 18 months ahead of Laois. And when you're in Croke Park, I think that's going to be hard to chase. I think Laois have closed the gap, but down this is their way back into Sam Maguire, and they're probably a Division 2 side, and they need to play in Division 2 and kind of go there, and this is their chance to go and win one in Croke Park, and I think they will. They just have pace everywhere. They have pace absolutely everywhere, and that was the most impressive thing about Sligo. The most impressive thing about Sligo is how they could stick with that down relentless running and goal, and they stuck with it and stuck and up until Mullen got sent off, who was probably their best defender. Up to when he got sent off, it was amazing. And like Sligo played without Towie and they played without Spillane, who were their two most two most explosive
Powerful,
players.
athletic, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Towie's a savage player, and like played without them in Croke Park and to go that close. And people argued about. I know there was a bit about the Tailteann Cup, and I said on OTB AM about the Tailteann Cup. If you want to make Gaelic football more competitive, all you have to do is look at Down and Sligo, and now look at Laois. If Laois didn't have the Tailteann Cup, they'd have won Division 4, they'd have got knocked out in Leinster. Their boys, you'd have had to give them a couple of months off, never have closed that gap. And now Laois going into 2025 are going to be a really competitive outfit again, and then going into 2026. So it allows you to build, like in Leitrim, we got to play football to the June 7th or June 8th, which is unheard of in Leitrim. Like, and playing competitive football.
Consistent games, yeah.
Against the right team, getting the chance to play them 520s in a game. Now them 520s, like the championship for the Leitrims of this world is the league, right? Now we've played them 520s in the Tailteann Cup. Now they're ready to play in the league. You don't have to go, we give them 10 minutes at the end of this league game, 10 minutes. They're actually ready to play. They've played 3 games now at Tailteann Cup, 4 games of championship football. Now they're ready to play into the league. So it allows you to have that development phase of football, which is huge. And these Leitrim guys coming through, I mentioned them there, Oberon, Cox, Guckin, and Foley, McNulty. Them guys coming through with Honeyman and Aina McNamara, they're such exciting footballers, Tommy. Like, they're real elite footballers playing in UCD, and all of a sudden now they've got a chance to go and play Division 3 football, and that's all because the Tailteann Cup has led them to that path.
Honeyman was too young to play for you this year, but whoever the next Leitrim manager is will get the benefit of that at senior level, right?
Yeah, I need to give Jim McGuinness a text at some stage to say thanks, because he got caught playing the guy. We'd have definitely
played.
Yeah, we'd have definitely played Paul, because I'm not sure anyone was aware of that rule. So we had 2 guys. We had a guy called Aina McNamara who stayed training with us the whole year after the under-20s was finished. He just came in with the seniors, and he's 18 in September. We couldn't play him. And with Paul Honeyman, I think his birthday is right at the start of January. And we were going to play Paul and bring him into the senior panel and play him. But thank God Jim got caught before I got caught.
Yeah.
It'd have been, but it was just, it's a silly rule, but the rule was there. And Paul is going to be an outstanding footballer for Leitrim for the next 10 years. Comes from great stock. The Honeymans were involved with John 94, and he's got a lot of good influences around him there in Ballaghaderreen, you know.
And you've been so good at your time. I know it's going to be a long week in Ballaghaderreen as he celebrates the life of John O'Mahony. Any last words before I let you go?
No, I suppose John always had a thing about giving stuff back. I was at Ballaghaderreen won a county title in 1972, and I was lucky enough to go into I don't know if I was invited or if I gate crashed it, but I went into the anniversary, the 50-year anniversary in 2022, in Durkin's Bar there in Balla, and I went in and just listened to the stories. And when Jono was talking, he was talking about Father Doherty, he was talking about John Morley, he was talking about Jim Fleming, Joe Greats that came in and helped Ballaghaderreen and helped him kind of achieve his goal. And then he went on and did it again. So I think that's the great message of the GA, and I think we kind of lose that sometimes, that the message is, you get guided, you go and guide, and the circle keeps going on. I think that's what will keep our clubs and our counties great over the next how many years. So John had just taught us that, and Joe to Geraldine and his 5 wonderful girls, they're brilliant, and he was a brilliant family man and stuff like that. To all them, listen, I said it to them already, but sincere condolences from all of us, and we'll be by their side for the next couple of days.
Yeah, and we echo all of that in the football pod as well. And a mentor to you, Andy. I think it's obvious you're following in his footsteps and you're continuing that journey that Jono was on himself. So thanks for sharing with us today on the football pod. We will talk to you again at some stage soon. I hope you get a little bit of a break over the next little while with Jenny and the kids, and that you enjoy the football this weekend. Take care of yourselves this week in Ballaghaderreen, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Andy.